Good afternoon. Hi, I'm Paul Skirpsky, and welcome to Snacktime Snippets. Today on GovCon365, we're going to talk about Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central and the process of generating an invoice. You know, what's more exciting than that? After some great work, we want to make sure we can bill and collect that money from clients. Joining me today is Mark Lahart, longtime colleague and friend. Thanks for joining, Mark.
Sure.
All right, so let's go ahead and let's get into our jobs and talk a little bit about the invoicing process and some of the things that we provide to simplify it for you. So I'm going to first start out with a cost type contract, and we'll show you how you generate an invoice and some of the features from invoicing there. So the process is very simple. We just go in and run the function to create invoice. What the system does is it defaults the date. So right now we're in the middle of May, so it's expecting we're going to produce an April invoice. This billing group, it allows us to invoice multiple projects at one time. So the idea here is if I'm billing my monthly invoices, it's just telling the system what group of charge codes within the group of jobs needs to be generated. So I can actually tell the system I want to generate invoices for the monthly invoices for multiple projects. And what it does is it creates what we call an invoice worksheet or a pre-invoice. In addition to running it immediately, I can also schedule it. The idea of scheduling it is if I want to run this off hours, maybe I'm just getting ready to head home and someone else is doing some posting and I don't want to interrupt them, or they're going to post subcontractor invoices, they're going to be done at 6 o'clock. I could tell the system, let's run this thing at 8 o'clock, and then tomorrow when I come in, all the invoices are ready for me. So once we run that function, whether it's real-time or scheduled, we then have, I guess we call it Invoice Proposal. So similar to the same concept, but the idea is it's a pre-invoice that I'm reviewing to make sure that it's accurate before we're sending it out to the customer. So the first thing I do is go ahead and pull that invoice document up. One of the things that I love is that within Microsoft Dynamics, we always keep the detail. So you don't need to worry about the fact that if I didn't print it, can I get back to it? You can always get back to it. We always have the detail stored, and we can also reprint it in different ways. So before I request approval, I just want to verify myself that the invoice is accurate. So we'll just go ahead and we'll use our print option here. When I go to print it, it's going to display a few options for me. And it saves whatever my filters were that I used previously, or I can preset for a job how I want the invoice to be displayed. The first setup is this group by. And this is what I'm telling the system within the sections of the invoice, how I want it laid out. Category group means type of expense. Category group plus labor type, it would take all of my labor and split it out into its different elements. So it would have a separate section for direct labor, subcontract labor, or consultant labor, where just category group would lump all those labor entries together. Cost plus fee would roll my indirect cost in the direct section, just giving me a loaded cost plus fee. And the reason for that is if you're a sub to a prime and that prime is someone you compete with, you don't want to show them your indirect rate. So this is a great way to be able to fully burden those the cost so they don't see your rate structure. The labor section, do you want to print it by resource, which is the person's name? It'll also show their labor category code next to it. Or do I want to just summarize by labor category code? So you can choose either option. Let's run it this first time by resource. And then the inception to date. Do I want to show inception to date or just current period? So let's show both on this one. I can also roll the invoice up to different levels, subtotal it by task. Do I want to print the cleanse on the invoice or not? So we've got other options that you can leverage. I can preview it, print it, or I also have the send to option, which allows me to send that document off to PDF, Word, or Excel. Let's just do an didn't mean to close it. Let's go ahead and we'll do an on-screen preview here of that invoice. Let's go ahead and go down. We'll preview it. And we'll get the details that'll just show up on my screen in just 1 second here. All right, so top left-hand corner would certainly be your logo, not ours, but you've got information about the customer. So who is the bill to contact, primary contract number, type of contract, information about funding. So funded amount, you had funded fee on that project, how much funding is left after this invoice. Then we're rolled up to our top level. So we've got our base year, person's name and labor category code. My demo system, I've got someone called New Resource, although some people might name their kid New these days, who knows. And then other individuals. Then we've got our expense section showing our lodging and meals for the period, our burdens, our fee, any kind of withholding, total for the invoice. So just a simple format, easy to produce. But like I mentioned, if I wanted to print it in a different way, and also it shows the percentages here, I didn't mention that. So this time, instead of showing it by resource, let's reprint this, and let's hide the person's name and just show the labor category code. So this is a great way to show that we're keeping that detail even after we post it. So now if I print it by labor category code and preview it, what you're going to see is a similar idea here, but that labor section is going to look a little bit different. So now when we pull it up, you can see it just has the labor category code. So you can tell the system, this is the way that I want to view it, and then the system will, will display it in that way. If I printed a T&M project, we would just have the T&M rates versus the detailed breakout that a cost type project has. Once I'm comfortable with it, then I would request approval. This would use the workflow in the system and send an email out to the approver so that they can then review it and approve that invoice. Once it's approved, I would post it, and then it becomes a historical document. And even though it's a historical document, I can always reprint it in many different ways. So let's actually go to a posted document. So we'll go to our posted invoices, and you would see the history of all the invoices here. So if we've been billing on this project for the last 12 months, I'd see the last 12 invoices. I can pull any of them up, reprint them. In addition, I can see from that invoice list, I can see the total amount of the invoice, but also what's remaining on the invoice. So actually, let me just go back to it real quick. So as I scroll across, you can see the remaining amount. So this is telling me that this one hasn't been paid yet, and I can drill into it, and if it was paid, I'd see the actual payment. So if it was paid, by the client on a certain day, I'd see that payment history there. So let's go back to that invoice, and we'll go ahead and pull it up. And let me talk a little bit about some of the things that on a posted invoice are a little bit different. So now we've got this invoice that's been posted. A couple things I want to mention on this is that you can actually attach documents. I talked about that. So I've got a PDF of the invoice. Maybe I want to actually attach what I sent to them because I can print it in different formats if needed. But let's go ahead and let's pull up our invoice. Find my print section. So I can reprint it in the same formats that I showed. So I won't do that, but I do want to show that you can also print it on government forms. So whether it's a 1034, 1035, or DD-250, we've got those embedded in the system. So if you're still using the government forms to print invoices, you can print them right out of the application. And in this case, we'll have our 1034, 1035, this is 1034, the cover page on that invoice. That's a little bit today on generating invoices. Hopefully you enjoyed this little snippet. And the thing that I'll say is that some of the key differences are that ability to reprint it at any time, in any format. I don't need to save a directory. We also have the flexibility of creating a format in Word. So I won't show that in today's session, but you can actually export to Word and have the ability to personalize it there. And the last thing is, all the workflows. So having that approval workflow right inside the system helps us save time and improve collaboration. Hopefully you enjoyed today's snippet, and join us again for other Snacktime Snippets with GovCon365. Have a great day.